What's up, Willow House community? Dr. Lindsey here, and we are going to take a short time span because I don't want to take up too much time and start to introduce core and pelvic floor because everybody's got one. Everybody has a core section, everybody has a pelvic floor. Surprise! Not sure if you knew that or not. So, anyways, we view the core as this entire section from basically the base of our skull down to our pubic bone and 360 degrees all the way around. So it is like a nice cylinder right here, center of your body, or think of it like a big keg or a small keg, whatever you want to do. But it is your core. Your core is not your six-pack muscles. Your six-pack muscles are your rectus abdominis. Those are a specific muscle group. Your core does not only involve your transverse abdominis. That is also a part of your core section, but it is not the end-all be-all when trying to bring your abs back together or alleviate back pain. All of this plays the game. And so that's what I want you to start thinking about. We are intelligently, innately designed as humans. It's a beautiful thing. And I do believe that each one of us are born perfectly. We hit obstacles and hiccups in the road, in which we develop compensation patterns or scars or whatever. And that's what makes us uniquely us. But our core was designed just so intelligently and beautifully. So what I want to bring your awareness to is this canister. Let me see if I can bring this down. This canister all the way around. We have our diaphragm and we have our pelvic floor. And then think about that cylinder all the way around both of those two things. Our diaphragm and our pelvic floor work together. They never work in isolation. Our pelvic floor never separately contracts from our diaphragm. The reason I want to make you aware of this is because our breath is the most fundamental piece of core and pelvic floor health. So think of it like this. You see your pelvic floor in there. That's not yours, but it's this guy's or this woman's. And then this will be our diaphragm, which resides under our rib cage right here. If we were to put our hands basically underneath our armpits and just like bra strap line, rib cage, allow your fingers to just lightly, don't hurt yourself, land along your rib cage. This is about the level of where your your diaphragm is. Where your rib cage right under here, your diaphragm is going to be right under here. So right in here. Think about this as your diaphragm and you got your pelvic floor. I don't have any rib cages around here, so this is just have this like visual thing going on. So we as humans have to learn to breathe as like we were innately designed to breathe. And all of my learnings, my experience come from developmental kinesiology and the Prague School of Rehab, DNS, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, as does Dr. Brias and Dr. Matz. So on the most basic fundamental level, we've got to get our breathing patterns back to origin, back to ground level, back to the foundations. So diaphragm, pelvic floor. On a regular diaphragm human breath, and I say human breath because we all use our diaphragm, but on a regular diaphragm human breath, and there's the laundry, our diaphragm and our pelvic floor go together. When we inhale, our diaphragm and our pelvic floor lower together. So inhale, everything lowers together. And all the muscles and musculature, musculoskeletal system right in here, it expands. It expands. Eccentric contraction. Now, on the exhale, everything naturally returns back to neutral. There's no sucking your belly button to your spine. There's no pulling your pelvic floor up and in. Like, our bodies just know what to do. Like, think about this. If we had to think about sucking our spine, our belly button to our spine and pulling our pelvic floor up and in on every single exhale, I guarantee we would have gone extinct as humans before we got here in this moment now. So think about that. Whew. And let's take 3 breaths together. But I want you to find a comfortable position, feet on the ground, or if you're lying on the ground, go with your knees bent and find your spinal neutral where you have basically no rib cage flare and your pelvis is not dumping water out the front or the back. Everything's just nicely lined up so that the diaphragm and the pelvic floor can work together in this beautiful cylinder. So you can do that seated, you can do that lying on your back, or you can do that standing. So I'm going to do it seated, and I want you to close your eyes. And we're going to inhale through our nose, and we're going to fill up and just see where the air, the energy goes. And exhale, and we're going to do that twice more. Inhale to fill up, and exhale. Once more. And exhale. So I hope you weren't forcing anything, but I want you to kind of like make note of where you felt your air going, where you felt the energy going. Because if it's only going to your belly, then our rib cage isn't expanding. And our rib cage is designed to move. All these little muscles in between our rib cage, they're designed to expand. If you don't feel anything in your back, let's try it again. So we're going to do 3 more. And I want you to see if you can expand your rib cage. Like, can the breath focus right here, expand here, all the way around 360 degrees. All right. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Hopefully, you felt it in a little bit different space and maybe a little more well-rounded, as we like to say. But that is a regular diaphragm human breath. And this is what we come back to after injury. This is what we come back to after birth. This is what we come back to reset. So if any of your homework has been to breathe or to go into the movement room and breathe, this is the breath we want you to do. It may feel foreign at first because, life happens, injury happens, compensation patterns happen. Or if you've never, ever, ever, ever actually thought about breathing, or if you have asthma, breathing hiccups, as I call them. If you are stuck in a desk in a school early on and you never thought about breathing again, desk inhibit the range of motion of our diaphragm. When we become pregnant, our diaphragm range of motion becomes limited. So this is where we always come back to reset, restart, rebuild, rehab, all of that. All right. So we've got the regular diaphragm human breath. That is ground zero, foundation, level one. So to build upon that, we have got to learn to manage our own internal pressure system. And we do this by creating task-specific intra-abdominal pressure. Task-specific intra-abdominal pressure. So what I mean by this is each of us, you, and me, we have to learn to manage our own internal pressure system. And we set, we brace, and then we pick something up. The intensity by which we brace is going to vary depending on the load. I am not going to set my task-specific intra-abdominal pressure the same as I'm picking up this water bottle as I would if I'm going to go do a 350-pound deadlift. Not necessary. Not necessary for me right now in this moment. However, if I'm rebuilding, rehabbing after exercise, I might need to, or rehabbing after an injury, I might need to brace, pick this up with both hands, and then go on. Be a little bit more intentional with the intra-abdominal pressure that I'm creating for that specific task. So, and I'll get into some discussion in a minute, but what we're going to do now is we're going to think about this breath, the human breath. On the inhale, remember, everything naturally lowers together, diaphragm, pelvic floor, and everything expands. On the exhale of the regular diaphragm human breath, everything returns back to neutral. In this instance, where we are creating task-specific intra-abdominal pressure, or as I like to say, a stability breath, the exhale is different. So we inhale, everything lowers and expands. Now, everything, all the muscles, including our pelvic floor, our pelvic floor is going to meet the resistance created internally. Our ab muscles, our internal, external obliques, our rectus abdominis, our transverse abdominis, our lumbar spine erectors, everything is going to meet the resistance. We are going to try to stay expanded. We are going to maintain this eccentric contraction as well as much as we can. So there we go. We inhale, everything lowers and expands. We are trying to maintain that expansion as we exhale. Now, I'm going to pull up this shirt and show you because there's no freaking other way. All right. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to put my hands right here because we want this happening 360 degrees. We don't want this just happening lower belly or belly. All right, we're going to inhale. And we're going to maintain this expansion as we exhale. Notice I do not suck my belly button to my spine. That would look like this. On my inhale, I expand. On my exhale, to create stability, I am trying to keep that expansion. Now, the glory of doing video, you can wear shorts on the bottom. Now, what I want to Like, just think about this. If somebody is going to pick up a deadlift, like they are here, what angle? That's tacky tag. They're not sucking their belly button to their spine. They're going to brace as if somebody was punching their belly. And then they're going to slowly push their feet into the ground, pull the bar off to stand. I want you to just think about that. If somebody is telling you to step up to a bar and lift a heavy bar, or lift a heavy cooler, lift a heavy bag of dog, innately, what do you think? I guarantee it's not to suck your pelvic floor all the way up to your throat. So, stability breath. We have to learn to manage our own internal pressure system. We have an internal pressure system to protect our disc, to protect our organs, to protect our reproductive organs. These are vital organs in here. If we did not create internal pressure, and it varies depending on the task, then all of this stuff would just be out there, like ready for danger, you know? So being able to utilize this canister and create our own internal pressure system is the key to core and pelvic floor health. And my goal, our goal with core and pelvic floor health is to create a dynamic and stable core, one that is movable and sturdy. So if we just had like a rigid, stiff core, then we could not move and translate power in space. If we had a very movable, fluid core, there would not be as much stability. So our core section is where power comes to transfer. This has got to be where power gets dissipated through all the limbs. Think about somebody throwing, somebody kicking. It originates from core to extremity. This is why everything, every injury, everything goes back to core and pelvic floor, to stability breath, even before that, to our basic human breath. And we do this in a neutral spine position where our rib cage is stacked on top of our pelvis. No, life does not happen in a neutral spine, but this is the first place where rehab happens. This is the first place where we get comfortable. We reestablish those motor neural patterns. This is where we gain confidence. This is the first place, this is the first plane of motion that you as a human learn to stabilize in and learn to move from. Going back to developmental kinesiology, when you watch babies move, they're on their back. Once they start to stabilize with their own core system, they're doing that in the sagittal plane with a neutral spine. Pretty freaking cool. They've learned to stabilize against the ground. And you start to see babies do things like dead bug-ish, happy baby-ish. They are learning to stabilize using their own internal pressure system in the sagittal plane of motion first. Once they gain confidence, then they start to look, and then they start to roll over, and then they start to stabilize on their ipsy side or their same side. Once they gain confidence there, they can start to grab and even do a leg or something, hand, leg. They start to roll over or push up to an oblique sit, roll over into a tabletop. Once we start to cross crawl, then we're firing all freaking different parts of our brain. Crawling is one of the best things you can do for core stability and rehab. So just something to think about. Oh, and let me add this last tidbit. Babies are born with diastasis rectus abdominis, DRA, which is a common thing that happens during pregnancy. It is the separation of the linea alba, this connective tissue, down the middle. And on each side is the rectus abdominis. So babies are born with this ab separation. This ab separation approximates as they go through their developmental milestones. Pretty freaking cool, huh? So they've got to learn to move on their backs. They've got to learn to roll over. They've got to learn to push up to an oblique sit. They've got to learn to crawl, then go to tripod, then go to bear, then so on. If babies don't go through that, then they develop compensation patterns. If babies are put into positions that they have not yet achieved on their own, they develop compensation patterns. So keep that in mind. It's all connected. Core, pelvic floor, compensation patterns, all of it. So what did we get out of today? Basic human breath, the diaphragm breathing. Inhale, everything lowers together. I just exhaled. Everything lowers together. Our diaphragm and our pelvic floor. On the exhale, everything returns back to neutral. On the stability breath, the task-specific intra-abdominal pressure is created depending on the task. The exhale is what is different. Everything meets the resistance of the internal pressure system that you yourself created. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to help. But this is just an intro to get you thinking. I hope this helps.